We got some significant Habs lineup changes as a new player might be making their season debut and a Habs defenseman looks to be coming back from injury extremely soon. We'll be diving into that, plus the Laval Rocket head coach speaks out about Arber Xhekaj and his early struggles with the team, but what he's done since then, all on this episode of Habs Digest. But before we get into the video, a reminder, guys, to hit subscribe. We are now less than 800 subscribers away from 10,000. That is one of the biggest milestones you can hit on YouTube, and if you're part of the 58% of people who are not subscribed, please do it now. Help us reach that goal. We'd really appreciate it. Dive in first to Arber Xhekaj, Jesse, and JF Houle kind of spoke a bit about Xhekaj, and of course, we all know Xhekaj had some early struggles, and this is in French, I'm going to translate it to English. These are quotes from Xhekaj, basically saying his first match was tough. The game is very different in Laval. It was very tough mentally and physically. He had to make some adjustments, but after that, he acclimated well, and in his first match, he just didn't quite have his passes there. His synchronicity wasn't there, but after getting some touches, it all kind of worked out, and the coach, JF Houle, said, for him, it's not bad to come down and play with Laval. It's just going to help him to lengthen his career. He said, you're going to be back in the NHL, man. Just work on your defensive game, work on your weaknesses, and it's going to be good. Xhekaj was positive, said, I think in general, he just wants me to be a professional, to work on my game, and that's what I'm going to do. And I think that's just pretty much all you can ask for, Jesse. Of course, the Habs D-core is getting more and more stacked at the NHL level, and Arber was probably not the happiest with this, but it certainly seems like everyone around this is making the most out of maybe a tough situation.
It is tough because I know that, we miss him as Habs fans for sure. And he went down. He didn't have the first, best game, but he picked himself off from there. He said, I'm going to be a professional, and go back to doing the things that he does well, which obviously is hitting people, setting up plays, getting shots on nets, all the things that we know and love from Arber Xhekaj. So really nice to see him kind of getting back in the pace of things. And I think that's right. Like, in Arber Xhekaj, we have an NHL player. This is just kind of part of his development. He kind of skipped the stage. He didn't go to the AHL. This was actually just his first game in the AHL just recently. So just getting those chances, getting those reps in, this will probably be good for his game, further down the line. I think that he has a really long future with him with the Montreal Canadiens. So I think that this is all just part of his process and development.
Yeah, 100%. And JF Houle said the same thing. Like, he was like, yeah, this is like, usually you don't skip this step. Usually you take this step, then go to the NHL, especially for an undrafted guy. But no, Xhekaj's different. He has shown some special talent. But you got to think too, like they mentioned a little bit the mental toughness, right? Xhekaj was like, it was mentally tough. And I think that kind of thing too, to see the struggles, see the game in the AHL, see how it's different from the NHL, see where you struggle in maybe a different game, that can sort of help you out too. Work out, okay, how can I deal with this better? And, Xhekaj, I mean, as amazing he is, sometimes he makes some mistakes on the ice, as a lot of players do, and they're young. So I think this is going to be beneficial in more ways than one, and we're super, super excited to get him back with the big club. But the problem is, we got some huge lineup changes, and one of the first ones involves a Habs defenseman, that being Jordan Harris. So today at practice, Jordan Harris skated with his teammates for the first time since November 17th. He was wearing a regular jersey, suggesting he is cleared for full contact. The defenseman's been placed on IR on November 21st with a lower body injury. So Harris is about ready to be back, Jesse. Now, we've talked a lot about this being such a tough situation for the Habs defenseman. It's amazing that Harris is coming back, but does he even slot into the lineup? We're going to go through the practice lineups in a bit, but there's already 7 guys who I would argue are above him in the depth chart right now, and that's without Xhekaj down there in the AHL. I mean, what do you think we do with Harris? What is the plan here?
Competition is tight, but management hasn't given up on this young man. I think rightfully so. As we know, Kent Hughes himself has said very recently, when we're looking at the development of prospects, like the progression is not linear. There's going to be ups. There's going to be some downs, which I think it's fair to say that we're going through that right now with Jordan Harris. He's going through a little bit of a down part after starting off his NHL career very, very strong. So I think it's just up for him to really kind of bounce back up, and I think that Martin St. Louis said something really key. It applied to a roster member, but I think it applies to all the prospects. And that's like, he doesn't give up on a player until that player gives up on themselves. And he can tell that by how they show up to the rink, their work ethic, how they're executing their attitude, right? And I don't think that Jordan Harris is one of those players that's given up. He's still hungry. So he's going to come and compete. And this is actually such a good thing for our organization that we have just so many young guys that are hungry, that are going to be battling. And you got to feel like this is going to bring out the best in everybody.
Yeah, I think so too. But at the same time, I'm still skeptical. And maybe I'm more skeptical than some others. I'm just like, I find it tough because there's so many guys. Like, at what point does it become a negative to the development of some guys? Like, while these guys, the competition will certainly help with the development, the competition just for lack of opportunity might hurt. You got to think these guys are showing, man, I'm so good, I'm getting so much better, just for someone to jump them. Like, what if Jaden Struble doesn't get sent down? This dude's proven himself like crazy. And Jordan Harris, like you said, he was an analytics darling. And he had a rough start to this season, but I still think the potential is really there, right? And I don't know what you do. This is something we got to keep a close eye on. I don't really have a solution, and it's not often that we can't even really propose one. But I'm just excited to see who they cycle in, who they cycle out. Do they waive Lindstrom? Do they just send Struble back down? Because guys, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Harris isn't even waiver exempt anymore, because he met a certain threshold of NHL games. I think it's like 80 games or something. So we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be tough. But let's get away from the tough situation, talk about something really, really nice. And that's Emil Heineman. Take a look at the practice lines. Now, to be fair, as you saw in that last one, Jake Evans took a maintenance day today. And if the last few games are to go by, we know that Jake Evans will slot in on that second line. Crazy to say Evans is on the second line. And you'll probably have Ullinen bumped down to the fourth. But to me, that means one of Pezzetta or Heineman is going to be out of the lineup, but one of them is going to keep playing. And I feel like it's almost time for Emil Heineman. And Coach Marty spoke a bit about him. He said he wouldn't say today whether Heineman would play on Saturday, but he said it's his pace, his skating, his physicality. I mean, you got to win the battles. You got to play with pace and physical. And he's a good shooter, but a lot has to happen before you take a shot. And Heineman kind of said too, when he was talking to Adam Nicholas in camp, he said, hey, I'm not where I want to be. Nicholas basically just said, hey, stop thinking too much, play aggressive, use your strength more. And that was a turning point, and Coach Marty agreed. They saw all the same thing, some physicality, some pace, some great shots from Emil Heineman. I'm super, super pumped to see what he can do at the NHL level. He's a guy we've been waiting so long for.
For sure. And as Marty said, there's more to the game than just shooting. But if you're looking to kind of compare Michael Pezzetta to Emil Heineman, if you're Martin St. Louis kind of going in tomorrow's night, I wouldn't be surprised to see Emil Heineman, because not only does Emil offer the physicality that Pezzetta is so great for offering, but what really sets him apart is also his shooting ability. Mm-hmm. So it's really actually kind of rare. And that's why I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of this player, of like a player who has a really great shot in Emil Heineman, but then also is super physical, can deliver huge hits. So I really like this combination of player, right? And it's so nice to see kind of these prospects coming up. And you have to feel like, even for Michael Pezzetta, this is somebody that you're battling with here, that you're in competition with, is a very real threat for just those aforementioned capabilities that he does have. So he's a really interesting player. And I think it's great for us to kind of have some other players that are really going to get involved physically, kind of join that battle, help get the whole team kind of engaged as well. So I'm looking forward to potentially seeing that type of player in the lineup.
Yeah, he brings a very different element to the team. Like, great shot, great pace, great physicality. I mean, you know, Josh Anderson ticks a lot of those boxes too, but like, just a younger guy too is almost a little more exciting. And, you know, when these guys get the chance to step up, they got to make the most of him. We saw Rafael Harvey-Pinard do that a lot last year. We saw a lot of these guys do it. We saw Ullinen do it. We saw Pezzetta do it. We saw whoever. And this year so far, it's like someone like a Mitchell Stevens has now just kind of been the fourth line center. Like, we're like, oh, Habs have too many centers. Guess what? Newhook and Dach are gone. Now who's going to step up? Well, it's Mitchell Stevens. He's been very solid as a fourth line center. Nothing too spectacular, but he's shown he's holding his own in the NHL. He hasn't been bad at all. And now you see Pearson go out with an injury, a very unfortunate injury, and you got to see Heineman step up. This is a guy that had, 6 goals in his first 6 AHL games or something? And even more than that, this guy was going crazy. Do you think once he starts playing, he's going to get maybe more ice time than we expect? Because I can see a situation where, under the right circumstances, he'll show flashes of crazy creation, and I wouldn't be surprised. I want to hear your take on this. If we see Marty do one of his little weird things, like that one time he put Ullinen up on like the first line for a little second, or the second line for a second, just to see that with Heineman, if he's showing some flashes, or maybe I'm getting a bit too ahead of myself.
You're not at all, because that's the reason that Marty St. Louis put Emil Heineman up on that first line was he saw that he really does have that type of potential. And that's why I believe he is a player that could really stick around. Again, he didn't make the team, and then just the worst luck right after, getting a concussion shortly thereafter, which kind of threw him off kind of his rhythm. But this is a very capable player with, I think, lots of potential, right? So it's so nice, even though we had to kind of lose somebody like Toffoli, even though he wasn't the only person that we're getting back. I think it's so great to have these young type of players in the organization, because I think this is a young player that potentially could have a lot to offer when you got a good shot, when you're showing that scoring capability, but then also, offering that good size, that good physicality. It's a very, very good combination.
Yeah, like you said, that first line was a training camp preseason. I forget when he was there with Suzuki and Caufield. Like, they saw something. And now they get to see it maybe realized, hopefully, tomorrow versus the Islanders. We'll have to wait and see. Super excited to see what he can do. And yeah, I mean, for a lot of Habs prospects, there's so many guys they could call up, and I'd be pumped for. So hey, can't wait to see it. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, please. We're almost at 10,000. I know it's going to sound like we're begging. Once we hit there, I'll stop, but we're so close. Come on, you guys know. We must be excited. You're excited. We're all excited, and we really hope to hit that very soon. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.